Hey everybody, it's Craig Syracusa, Walk in Faith. This is an honor. In case people are not familiar with Sister Shirlee, I think by now everyone across the diocese, across the tri-state area knows Sister Shirlee and her fastball. Sister Shirlee, how are you doing?
I'm handling things as well as can be expected at this point. I'm doing okay.
In case, just I know everyone knows who you are, especially in the diocese. I mean, you have your own bobblehead, which is amazing, which I don't have my own bobblehead. But can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your fastball?
Oh, well, I'd rather tell you that I'm a religious sister of the community of St. Lucie Filippini. And in my BC life, before convent, I was a softball player. I played at Temple University and played some traveling ball up and down the East Coast. And I actually once played in the Houston Astrodome, but that's all behind me now. and and I teach, and I love it.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm just wondering, because I was thinking, obviously a lot of nuns they're sort of used to, sort of being confined, but you're not like that. I know you personally. You love to ride your bike. You love to play sports. You love to be outside. How have you been handling this personally?
Well, I've still been able to go out and walk a few times a day. Um, I don't walk as far and as long as I would normally do, just to stay kind of local. But yeah, I've been doing that. I've been doing my walking daily, and we have an exercise bike in the convent. So I do that in between my classes, my virtual classes. But I got to tell you, I saw something on social media that said about, be sure that you wear your mask in the house, and that caught my attention. I was like, wear your mask in the house. It was so that you stop eating, and, and and boy, is that true, because every trip through, it's like, oh, okay, I'll have a little bit of this. So
Yes,
that's been a real challenge. Yeah,
I
as a
noticed
side
that.
note.
I noticed that the first week too. I was like, I thought I was like the Christmas break. I was eating everything, and then I said, "Oh,
Yeah,
this has got to stop." And then it's like you need to get into the routine, which is what I've been doing.
that's it.
I have pants on. I know a lot of people on Zoom they don't wear pants, and I put the suit on every day. I shave, and this is work. This is what I'm called to do. So now,
Yeah.
we mentioned briefly. So you're still working, obviously. You're still teaching, and
Yes.
my concern, and we talked about it is that a lot of the kids I spoke to St. Francis College the other day, and my concerns are, I have nephews, nieces that are going to high school, that are going to junior high, the transition, going to college, and the built up anxiety, the transition. I remember going to high school and college. That was a scary part of my life. And now not
Mm.
having that ability to go to the guidance counselor, speak to people face to face, get used to going to the college fair, whatever it is. I think now I'm
Right.
concerned about the anxiety, and also how do we detect the anxiety if parents are also going through a lot of anxiety about finances and about health and losing loved ones? How do they sort of deal with their own anxiety but also detect anxiety within the kids?
Okay, that's a loaded question. I think, first of all, as far as eighth graders go, there's always that anxiety of transition. Most of them have been here with us since they're 3 years old. So now you're going to leave this place and go to an environment where you're going to know some people, but it's all strange and new. So I think, first of all, the basic thing is you have to have a conversation. And for kids, I know you don't always have to have an answer. You don't always have to have a right answer, but they need an arena in which to express themselves so that they can just feel heard. So opening up the possibility of conversation with your kids, whether you're teachers or their parents, and just giving them an opportunity to vent and let them say what's on their mind, what they're concerned about. I think that's just a usual kind of transition that eighth graders are going to go through. The other thing right now is that our eighth graders are experiencing are all the things that the eighth graders do at the end of the year. Our kids so far, they've missed. We always do a living passion play that kids just can't wait to participate in. They've missed that. They've missed, now this month going to be the May crowning that they're in charge of. And of course, graduation, their dance, their trip, all this stuff, those are all losses. And I think you deal with loss, you have to grieve those losses. You have to say, I'm sad. This is very, I'm empty. I'm missing these things. And again, I want to say, because even if it weren't a pandemic situation, loss and disappointment and transition, those are all things that kids go through naturally anyway. This, of course, magnifies it. But I think just the bottom line foundation that we've been going on, the premise that we've been kind of living through is give them the opportunity to have the conversations, give them the opportunities to express what they're feeling. And some kids are going to have it a little more anxiety than others. And, parents can try not to grow that anxiety by being careful of their own conversations,
Mhm.
maybe limiting the TV time that's going to show them, horrible statistics right now that we're still seeing, even though there's some decline. They don't need all that information. So that would be my short answer.
I agree. I mean, unfortunately, I've been putting the news on because it comes on dinner time, and my son now knows the president. He's 4, and he knows the president. He knows when the mayor calls every day, and we try to have age-appropriate conversations. But
Sure.
let's say if a family member, is dealing with a lot of anxiety, because there are, or if kids ask questions, should
Mhm.
you limit these or should you have an age-appropriate conversation? Or what happens if you are filled with your own anxiety? How do you avoid sort of that conversation or lashing out at a kid or lashing out at a loved one? What should you do?
Mm,
Some of the things you could do.
mm. Well, stop and take a breath before you respond, so that in fact you can respond instead of reacting. Um, that's just a good rule of thumb. I think, certainly prayer helps. And, this is a time that really tests our faith. So you have to dig a little deeper. One thing that I told our students to do, I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and I've challenged them to examine the areas of their lives, themselves as a member of the family, themselves as a student, um, themselves as a child of God, and fitness, physically fit, their physically fit self, and to kind of set a goal in each area. And one thing that one of the students shared, which I thought was an exceptional idea, is because the dinner table, as you mentioned, was kind of a hotbed.
Hmm.
Um, this child said that they've been working on everybody bring a topic to the dinner table that's not related to what's going on right now. And so that steered the conversation, and everybody had an intention when they came to the dinner table. With our school, also at 8 o'clock every night, the families have been asked to gather, to stop, and to pray. We've been very blessed, very fortunate. One family in particular started out, this was back in March, started out with calling us, the
Hmm.
sisters, at the 8 o'clock prayer time. It has now grown to, I'm going to say, there's maybe 15 different homes on this one Zoom call every night at 8 o'clock, just to stop, say an Our Father, say a Hail Mary. And so prayer does work. And if you've ever been a skeptic, now is a time that you can really call on the Lord and put your faith in action.
Oh, I
Mm.
100% agree on that. And one thing too, I've noticed a lot of priests, and even my mother, she just teaches CCD, but she's going back to the old fashioned calling people on the phone.
Yeah.
And she's just been talking to the kids because, sometimes, like you said earlier, something like, we're dealing with this in family and friends that the
Yeah.
kids, depressed, but they don't feel comfortable talking to the mother. And sometimes it's easier if you have someone that they trust, that they can lean on, to have those age appropriate conversations if they have anxiety or depression. But I've noticed
Mhm.
too, like you said, people are really leaning on their faith, all different ages, all different types of people that I would never have conversations about faith now are asking questions, and it's
Right.
really engaged. And I've asked this question, and I'm concerned, is that, what happens when life gets back to the new normal? We have this, we're leaning on God so much now, but it's very easy we can forget and say, God took me through the storm, and we can come up with a million scenarios that it wasn't God, or I don't need God now. How do we
Right.
ensure that this habit that we're creating now, this foundation of faith, lasts way beyond this pandemic?
I don't know how to ensure that. I would say we look back at 9/11, and at that time, the churches were open and they were packed, right? And how long did that last? You know, people forget. I think that's just the nature of humanity. We are going to forget. Um, we're sinful beings. If I had an answer for how we hold on to it, you know, even myself, certainly, I can remember God more in my day now and in what the new normal will be one day. I don't know that there's an answer for that to help us to remember. Um, yeah.
Well, what do you do, or what could you tell us? I mean, I have a routine, right? And
Yes.
which I do every day, and I'm assuming you have one as well. Is
Yeah.
there something you do, or something you could share with the audience that they could do every day that might help them continue this relationship with Christ, or grow a stronger foundation, so when life gets back to the new normal, at least they'll have that routine?
hmm I could make a couple of suggestions, certainly. The routine that they're doing now, um, although it may not be able to continue once the new normal comes back, they can take a piece of that, something that nurtured them the most, and try to hold on to that, continue to do it, even if it's in a modified version. Um, you know, the rosary has become very popular again and very vogue. So, you know, the rosary in the car, on the bus, on the train, on the way to work. Um, yeah, uh, those would be two suggestions, Craig, off the top of my head.
No, I love that.
Um,
I like to do daily devotional, but I also love just conversations. Just conversations. I'm in the car. People think I'm on
yeah,
Bluetooth, whatever, and I'm just talking to God, talking to God. And that's it all day long. And my son's like, "Who are you talking to?" I'm like, "God." Just having a conversation with him, because it's so easy. Sometimes people get concerned about learning the rosary or the decadence and they don't know, but just have a conversation with Christ.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I and that's something that, the other thing too, which we briefly mentioned, is what has it been like now? I know there's been jokes online where parents are saying like, how do I remove this kid from my class? And I think teachers especially, and the front line now has been, everything's been sort of, everything we idolize, everything we worship has been removed, right? And we truly
yeah,
see what's important in life. Obviously it's faith, it's family, it's the use of time, and parents
yes,
have a new respect, and we all have a new respect for people on the front line. What have you noticed
yes.
in terms of like, just the way parents are, teaching their kids, but the way teachers are looked upon and the front lines looked upon? Have you noticed anything in your own world?
I have absolutely noticed just a plethora of thank yous and gratitude emails and texts from parents, whether it's out of their frustration of trying to maintain one or two kids as opposed to a classroom of kids, or if they're just sincerely grateful and just gaining an awareness now of what it is to impart the faith and knowledge to a classroom of kids day after day, on top of everything else that a kid deals with from day to day. So I think there has been definitely a growth and appreciation. You know, for myself, the teaching, the virtual teaching, I was a total novice a month ago. I knew technologically, I knew how to do what I needed to do for my classes and for paperwork wise. But now I'm pretty good at it. In fact, I'd say I'm better than average. But I don't know. I don't know for sure if my kids are learning. You know, I can't look into their eyes and see the aha moment or the glazed over, you know, frown that says, I'm just not getting this." You know, I can't feel the energy in the classroom and experience their enthusiasm. So I don't care that I'm better at the technology, because that's not the teaching that I know and love. I'm doing it. I'm doing it to the best of my ability. Students are giving me work completed and on time. And, you know, kids are telling me that the positive thing is, well, we're still learning, sister. We still feel like we're connected. Good, good. I
Mhm.
want them to feel that. But on the other hand, that whole relationship and rapport piece that is so vital to really touching a kid's heart so that you can then touch their mind. I don't know that we have a grasp on that right now.
Yeah.
And that makes me sad.
That's interesting. I mean, I never even thought of it that way. I mean, when you talk about church and how, it's virtual, we don't have the community. But what I think in
Yeah.
the positive side, which is different from what you're saying, is that we're planting a seed, and hopefully people will go to church, or people that haven't been, or haven't built a relationship. But on in your point of view, I never thought about that. The schooling part, the learning part, the actual one-on-one. So I mean, is there any notice or anything? Do you know if you're going back to school in September, or do we know if it's summer? Like, do you have any idea what the future holds?
No, I just know I know we're not going back right now to in June. That looks like a very grim possibility, very, very slim. Um, and we don't know. We don't know even September. I know that they're already, not us, but things in the city and in high schools are already starting to be canceled. Summer programs, some are social programs, some are learning programs. The regions have been canceled. So, things into August are already being projected as done. And, we were hoping maybe June for some kind of a graduation, celebration experience. Now, then we said, okay, if it can't be June, then maybe July or August, or if we have to bring them back, it's a little different for us because our kids are going to neighborhood high schools. So
Mhm.
when we can and we bring them back to celebrate, that's a little easier. But from high school, they're going off in all directions.
Yeah.
How do you regroup them? And on our kids come back often anyway. So, we don't have to say, okay, this date has passed, and so we can't do that or anything else. Um, we can keep pushing it back until it's feasible, and then we can do it upright.
Wow.
So we hope to keep giving them that to look forward to. That's hopeful for them.
Wow, that's sad. I know at the colleges I spoke to, they summer programs were canceled. Everything's going to be online, and then
Yeah.
they're getting certified for September in case they need to do more online teaching. So I don't know what that means. I know they have graduation now projected in August, but that's still not a guarantee. And like you said, to graduate college, and so I mean, not to get into enrollment and stuff, but are you guys concerned about enrollment in September if we're still during this pandemic and there's still limited sort of school?
I haven't really thought much about that. I'm sure Sister Joan, our principal, has with the board. But that hasn't been a topic of concern right now. It hasn't been an issue that, people have expressed to her, or I'm sure it would have been our dinner conversation. But, so far, no. And, that's a whole nother area that will have to be considered, people that are out of work who've been, Catholic school products, since their kids started school, and even many of our parents are alumni. So you have to work with these people and figure out how do you make it work. You can't just just the way people are, um, you know, can't make their rent or other bills. You have to work with them, and it's on an individual basis, I would say. But we haven't gone to that route yet. I guess staying hopeful that people will be back to work and we'll be back in that building. Uh, yeah.
I pray. I mean, Catholic education is so important. We registered my son for what is it, kindergarten in a Catholic school because he's just starting
Uh,
school, and I'm excited and I pray and I hope
right.
that there are no issues because I want to give him a strong foundation. The same way I went to Catholic school, I want my son to follow. So just two last questions. One is,
Sure.
like we mentioned too about the front line, and this is just a theory and really just based on intuition, but I feel like people are gonna there'll be an increase in vocations. I think people are going to really re-examine some of their choices and what they thought was important in terms of career choices because we
Yeah.
see what's really important. Do you see an increase in vocations across the board from, sisters to priests to just, nurses? I mean, just overall, or do you see this not having a lasting effect?
Craig, I can see that for sure. I can see, first of all, um, a resurgence in the vocation of family life, realizing, as you said, how important family is. So I can see that really getting rejuvenated and renewed. And also, because we are staying safe and staying secluded, so to speak, um, hopefully people have had more time for prayer and more time for quiet. And the Lord speaks to us in the quiet. So perhaps some of those people who through the years have been being called and have not responded simply because of the noise that surrounds their life. Hopefully the quiet will be an opportunity to awaken and hear in the depth of their heart that, yeah, there is something more out there, and the more is Jesus calling to me.
I agree. I love that. I really do pray. I'm going to speak with Father Sukio this week about it. I really see it. I know for myself, I've been always thinking about the diaconate, and during this time, I feel like, not yet because I'm still a little young, but I still feel like I'm being called to that. Definitely, this has increased my prayer life and what I truly want to do, which I always knew, but now it's sort of solidified that. So just one last thing before we go. If there's one thing we can learn from this interview, if there's one thing we can learn from this storm, this pandemic, what would it be? What would be your prayer to people out there?
My prayer for people out there. Well, stay safe. This pandemic is testing our faith. So instead of testing for the pandemic, let's stay true to our faith. Keep your distance from doubt. Isolate from fear. God. Trust God has a plan, and sometimes his plan is revealed in greater ways through diversity, through hardships, through trouble, through difficulty, through challenge. So don't stop looking for the good that can come out of this, from the smallest good that you get to speak with people more frequently to the greater good that you hear God calling you to his service. So keep listening, keep praying, and trust God. Trust God. Find the good in everything.
I love that. I think we can, if we truly look, we will see the good because we see it every day. And people, whether it's at the stores, the front line, on social media, there's so much good being done right now. Sister Shirlee, I look forward to seeing you in person, playing ball again. You have some fastball. Thank you so much. God bless you, sister. Thank you so much.
God bless you too, Craig. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, guys. Always remember, you have the ability to inspire and evangelize through words and actions.